Hi, I'm Janet, one of the Youth Services librarians here at the Mark Skinner Library in Manchester, and I'm really happy to be here today to share with you some of the books that made it to the lists of child-centered book awards that we give out in Vermont every year. There are 3 of them. First award is called the Red Clover Award. As you probably know, the red clover is the state flower of Vermont. So the red clover is awarded every year to the top picture books for kids. And there's a committee that chooses several books. Only 10 make the final list. And then those books are read by children throughout the state of Vermont. The kids who read the books get to vote on them at the end of the year. And the winner is invited to a conference where they speak to the kids about the art of writing and illustrating children's picture books. The first book I'd like to share with you from this year's list is called All the Water in the World by George L. Lyon and Catherine Totson. This is a book that totally immerses the reader in the water cycle. From blue end papers and thrashing water on the title page, we're taken to a view of the tiny blue planet Earth from space. And then from space, the author moves to the familiar, water coming from a hose, puddles, and a cup of water. The author explains the water cycle using a wealth of vocabulary, quite artfully and effectively. You feel the words. This is a great science read aloud for primary grades. The next book from the Red Clover list that I want to share with you is called Tia Isa Wants a Car, and it's by Meg Medina. This is a charming story about family, about remembering those who are far away, and about wanting something and working really hard to get it, and also being willing to wait to be able to have it. Tia Isa wants to save up for a car so that she can take her niece to the beach. But they're also saving to get enough money to bring their family over from Cuba. And so this is the story of how a little girl does odd jobs in order to help save enough money to buy that very special sea green car. It's a happy story. It's a story of love, friendship, and family. I think you'll really enjoy it. In Titanic Sinks by Barry Denenberg, the author takes us on an incredible journey of discovery of how the famous ship Titanic was built, launched, and sank. It's a story that combines fiction and nonfiction in a walloping tale of the sea and of disaster. It's a great read and a great trip. You'll enjoy it. Here we have Balloons Over Broadway by Melissa Sweet. This is actually a nonfiction picture book which tells the story of the famous Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which very few people realize was actually created by a man named Tony Sarg. Tony Sarg was a puppeteer who came to America and was asked by Macy's to create puppets that could float in the sky so that they could have a parade for all of the people who worked at Macy's. And from that, year after year, the parade got bigger and bigger and eventually became the very famous, very wonderful Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade that we know and enjoy today. This book is a celebration of Tony Sarg and everything that he's created throughout the years. It's a delight. The next children's book award that I'd like to talk to you about is called the Dorothy Canfield Fisher Children's Book Award. Dorothy Canfield Fisher was a Vermont writer who was dedicated to literacy for children. And the DCF Award, as it's known, is one of the oldest child-centered book awards in the country. So it's quite prestigious. A committee of 8 experts, booksellers as well as librarians, get together every year, read literally hundreds and hundreds of books written for middle grade students, I'd say grade 3 through 8. And they come up with a master list of 30 titles. That list is distributed to schools throughout Vermont. And students read at least 5 books on the list in order to be eligible to vote. So I'm going to just share a few of the titles on this year's list with you. This book is one of my favorites, The Fingertips of Duncan Dorfman by Meg Wolitzer. Many of you may have heard of Meg Wolitzer. She is a New York Times best-selling author of adult books, and she brings all of her skills and all of her storytelling abilities to this novel, which centers on 3 kids who go to the Youth Scrabble Tournament, which is held every year. So for those of you who are wordsmiths who love Words with Friends or Scrabble, you're going to just delight in this story. And one of the things that all of these kids learn is that there's something more important than winning that grand prize. So that's The Fingertips of Duncan Dorfman. The Flint Heart is written by Catherine Patterson and her husband John Patterson. Catherine Patterson is also a Vermont author and an award-winning author as well. And this is the story of a magic amulet that brings both power and despair to those who own it. The story begins in prehistory and takes us right up to the present time. It's filled with pixies and fairies and good luck and bad luck and natural disasters and catastrophes of all sorts. Once you pick it up, I guarantee you won't put it down till the very last page. Inside Out and Back Again by Tana Lay is a book that's not only been made a Newbery Honor Book, but it's also won the National Book Award. So this is a well-received, critically acclaimed multicultural novel about a young girl who tells us through free verse all of the events, the life-changing events that take place in the year 1975 when she and her mother and her brother leave Vietnam for America. They actually relocate in Alabama, and this is the story of that relocation. The Green Mountain Book Award was established 8 years ago. The mission of the award is to encourage high school students in grades 9 through 12 to read just for pleasure. And the committee chooses books each year that have been published within the last 5 years. They need to be available in paperback, and they need to have been well reviewed by at least 2 professionally recognized journals. So the books on this list are of very high quality. And again, it's a student-centered award. The first book I'd like to share with you is kind of a lighthearted romp through the streets of Manhattan. It's called Sweet Scarlet, which is a little bit of a play on words, by Maureen Johnson, because the main character, 15-year-old Scarlett Marvin, is actually stuck in her family's hotel in New York City. She's stuck there for the whole summer working in this historic hotel. But what makes this summer bearable for her is her actor brother's best friend, who's very attractive, and also a seasonal guest who offers her an intriguing and challenging writing project to improve her outlook. It's a mystery, and it's lots of fun. In Ghostopolis by Doug Tenopel, we have a graphic novel in which Garth Hale is accidentally transported to the ghost world by a washed-out ghost wrangler. Garth discovers that the most evil creature in the world wants his unique powers. So he teams up with some very unlikely folks in order to find a way home. Divergent by Veronica Roth is a dystopian novel which takes place at some time in a future Chicago when 16-year-old Beatrice Pryor realizes that she just doesn't fit into her society, nor does she fit into any of the categories that kids of her age are assigned for the rest of their lives. The other and most disturbing thing that she discovers is that the world in which she lives is not as perfect as she thought it was. And then we have Room, which was originally written and published for an adult audience. It was written by Emma Donoghue, and it was a huge success. I think it rose to the top of the New York Times bestseller list. It's the story of Room, which is Jack's world. And the story is told through the eyes of Jack, who has lived in Room for 7 years with his mother. Jack thinks that this is the world. He doesn't realize that it's actually the prison in which he and his mother are being kept. But because of her overwhelming love for Jack, his mother realizes that she has got to find a way out for them. So she begins to plan their escape. This is a real page-turner. Thanks so much for joining me to hear about these wonderful books. It's always a delight to talk about books for kids and for teens. I know that you will enjoy them. I know that you'll enjoy any books on these lists. And I want to offer an invitation to all of you and urge you to come to the Mark Skinner Library, browse our shelves, use our computers, chat with us. We're so happy to see you, and we look forward to seeing you here soon. Meantime, happy reading.